Lagos. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó àjùmọ̀ṣe ni.
Sustaining a healthy environment is critical in improving the quality of life and the span of a healthy life. Therefore, environmentally sustainable development policies and practices should be essential to the population and policy makers of a state. Welcome to Greater Lagos. I remain your host, Lucy Ulugbe. Due to its huge population, the environment of Lagos requires consistent maintenance and development. Little wonder then that the current administration has made health and environment cardinal program in the theme's agenda. The key player in this sector is the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources. The main thrust of the ministry is to protect and improve the environment, assist public and private organizations, industries, businesses, and non-governmental organizations to achieve compliance by providing environment-friendly solutions to different environmental challenges. On today's episode, we will be having a chat with Mr. Tunji Bello, the Lagos State Commissioner of Environment and Water Resources. Don't go anywhere.
Greater Lagos. Greater Lagos.
Honorable Commissioner, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So the mandate of this ministry is primarily to secure a clean, healthy and sustainable environment, which is also part of the theme's agenda under the government of His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu to make Lagos a green city. Tell us more about it.
Well, thank you very much. You recall that when Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu came in 2019, we had a bit of policy somersaults in terms of managing the environment of Lagos. So we needed to really package what went wrong in the previous years. And that is the first task of the Mr. Governor, was to restore what we started since the time of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, an environment which Governor Fashola also sustained. So we needed to recalibrate and then keep it moving and so on. Because every day environment keeps changing, you have climate change now and other things and so on. So we had issue with waste management, we had issue with pollution, we had a lot of issues because the policy we were pursuing could no longer gel because of the implementation was a bit somehow awkward. So what Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who has already been part of that team since the time of Asiwaju, was to restore what we started, environmental policy, and see how we now begin to implement them the way they should. So what we did, when the governor did, when he first came in, was to repackage, bring back the Loma, because Loma was almost going under at that time, and so Loma was rendered to the background, and Loma was the rallying point for all the PSP operators. Because let me tell you something, if you don't get the waste management right in any society, there's no way you can combat pollution, there's no way you can combat flooding, there's no way you can even manage what you call climate change as well. Because managing the environment begins from your doorstep, from your kitchen, from your sitting room, from your workplace, and so on. We use papers, we use everything, and so on. You eat, you use your kitchen, you go to the toilet, every year and there. So managing your waste, you begin from. If you don't manage the waste very well, and so on, you're gonna. And we had a bit of that problem at that time. So what the governor did at that particular time was to find a way to restore what should be the way ahead. And we thank within 6 months, everything was restored. All the institutions that we had were put back on track and so on. And they were able to restore the environment to what it was and so on. And from there, we began to build again to see how we can begin to be more relevant with what is happening in the current things in terms of the developments in the environment. So by and large, we have restored all those structures, environmental institutions and so on. You can see the Lagos State Parks and Garden is back, Loma is fully back, LASEPA is fully back, LASA is fully back, and everybody is working, and they're all working together.
You mentioned Loma and LASEPA. LASEPA helps to protect the environment, and then Loma, manages waste. So I know that they also, help in recycling waste, which is also turning waste to wealth. I want you to throw more light on it.
Let's begin from waste management. First of all, if you have to set up a management system for how you manage your waste before you can begin to even go to recycling, because if you don't gather your waste, you cannot recycle. First of all, you must find a proper collection and disposal. If you don't have, the two must go together. Collection and disposal must go together. If your collection is perfect and disposal is not perfect, you are wasting your time. The two must go together. So it is when you have a collection and disposal, they are together, then you can now begin to talk about recycling. So what we all the governors who perfected in 2019 or was able to restore was to ensure that the collection and disposal were in tandem with the policy of the state, and we're able to restore the structures for managing that and so on. From there, recycling process started. And what are we talking about recycling? Now, you know why Lagos should be talking about recycling is the world, because first of all, you have to begin to separate your waste. First of all, Lagos is limited in terms of land space. Lagos is the most populous state, over 20 million people living in Lagos, yet the land mass of Lagos is the smallest, less than 4,000 square kilometers. The whole of Niger State is 76,000 square kilometers. So imagine, that's the largest state in Nigeria, 76,000 kilometers. Now look at Lagos, less than 4,000. So you have about over 20 million people living in that small space. And then if you look at that space, 25% of it is water, lagoon and so on. Now, it's the southern part of Lagos. There's no way you can set up a dump site or what you call landfill site anywhere. There's no dump site around that area. So that means that you must go to the upper side of Lagos. That means that Ikeja, Agege side before you can set up a dump site. Meaning that before you collect your waste in the island, where the coastal areas, that is the southern part of Lagos, you have to travel far to the northern part of Lagos to go and dump and so on. Given the traffic, given everything and so on, that is a hard task to do and so on. And if you don't manage that very well, you are going to have a lot of backlog, a lot of waste on the streets and so on. So those are the challenges as Lagos, but we have been able to deal effectively with that, with all these issues, with the policies set up and so on. And because we do not have a lot of land mass, so that's why we have to do recycling, because all our dump sites, they are getting filled up. If you look at Ojota here, Oluchosun, it takes about 65% of the waste generated in Lagos. 65% of it is almost filled up. So basically in another 3 to 4 years, we will not be able to use it again. So where do you go from there? You don't have land where you can even set up dump sites again and so on. So meaning that we have to reduce the amount of waste going to that dump site. So whether we like it or not, we have to go back to recycling. And recycling will help us reduce our waste by 50%. And that is the modern trend.
Let's talk about the drainage system in Lagos. We've had cases of flooding during rainy season. What are being done to stop this? And then what are the provisions that are being made for flood victims?
Lagos has not had serious flooding. I want to repeat.
Okay.
Lagos has not had serious flooding. You saw what happened in Pakistan. You saw what happened in the US, where many houses were lost. You saw what happened in Germany.
What about the Lekki environment?
No, just hold on.
Okay.
You saw what happened in those places and so on. We have said for years, the Lagos State government has been educating Lagosians. Let me give you one example. Last year, it rained heavily. The whole of Marina was waterlogged. The whole car park in Marina, everywhere. What happened? And we are telling people, I said, okay, after the rain stops, the water will disappear. Why? Why was that? The water level in Lagos is very high. Now, Lagos has only one Commodore channel. The Commodore channel is where the big ships bring goods to the country. where they enter the lagoon. If you are coming from Atlantic Ocean, you enter the lagoon. Through your station in Victoria Island. That's where all the big vessels bringing goods into Apapa port, they enter. That is only one common channel. Lagoon must also pass through that place. So as the vessels are coming in, they are dragging the lagoon back. Then when it rains heavily, if you have a rain constantly for 6 to 8 hours, the whole of Lagos, particularly the coastal side of Lagos, Southern part, will be flooded. So, and we have always warned, for years, over 10 years ago, we've been telling people, say, just be patient. Be patient. Once the rain stops, within 2 hours, the water will go back. Because Lagos is below the sea level. So when it rains heavily, you are going to be flooded. But if the drainages are not working, because one, drainage must enter into lagoon. Lagoon must enter into the Atlantic Ocean. If Atlantic Ocean is high, lagoon will not be able to enter it. Our drainage channels will not be able to enter the lagoon. Then water will go back to the streets. But if the rain stops and the ocean goes down, then the lagoon begins to flow in. Then the water will start flowing. But the water will not go if your drainage channels are not working. And that's what we ensure that is done regularly. We ensure that all the drainages are cleaned. When the rain is coming, we ensure that all the drainage channels in those areas, they are well cleaned so that there won't be any problem. And when it happened last year, under 3 hours, the whole water, we say Lagos is flooded, everybody say Lagos is flooded. But under 3 hours, the water disappears. You don't see the water. Have you experienced what is happening in other countries? You have not experienced it in Lagos. You only see water for a few hours and say the whole of Lagos is flooded. So it's a wrong notion. Let me give you an example. 4 times a year, normally we start cleaning our drainage from February. Okay. When it is around May, June again, they go back because sediments will have come and they go and clean up because we normally have heavy rain June, July. They go and clean up again. Then in September, October, they go and clean up because, don't mind you, October, River Ogun will because of the heavy flow coming from upland, from as far as Kwara State, Ondo State, and so on, and Oyo State, they flow into River Ogun. And when River Ogun is overflowing, it passes through Lagos. It not pass through that boundary, Lagos to Ogun boundary at near Baja, after Baja area. So and it goes behind that where OPIC offices, OPIC, the Ogun State property.
Yes.
Yeah. Then it will go behind it before it enters through Majidu or Wood area. And when it enters through Majidu, the whole of that place is heavily flooded. But the road is raised now, so you won't see. So people around that area, we have a lot of wetlands around that area. People around that area are usually flooded and so on. So, and that means that you must manage it. So normally we expect that in September and October. We can tell you when the water will come. Just to tell you to know the level of organization that we have. We can tell you the pattern of the rain. We monitor the pattern of the rain that you're going to have this year, and then based on the working with meteorological services and so on, provide all the data and so on. We tell you when to expect heavy rain, when River Ogun is going to overflow into Lagos, and so on. People living around that area, we warn them. That is the level of preparation to which how we manage our flooding situation in Lagos.
Greater Lagos.
A cleaner Lagos is a healthier Lagos. Up next, we have our Mega Citizen segment. And right after that, our very informative Eco Daily segment. Please don't go anywhere.
Greater Lagos.
I think Lagos State government, they are really doing fine, in terms of environment, The new administration have been doing great. For example, now I think there's this program, this planting of a tree by students in Lagos, by mostly students in Lagos, and I think that's very fine because we all know the climate change affecting the world right now. I think somewhere in Brazil there was this forest fire or something that happened somewhere in Brazil some time ago. All these things are actually from the result of most of the fossil fuels and other things that we use on a daily. So it's very important, to live greener. It's very important that we as Lagosians should try and help the government. We can't leave these things to the government alone. It is very important that we do all these things. A few days ago, they arrested a man who, went during it was raining. Then he emptied the whole bin, his dustbin. He emptied the whole dirt into the into the drainage. That is very, very terrible. These things should start from us. As long as the government, they are trying, they are really doing fine. But as the governments are doing fine, we should also try as much as possible to help them and achieve the goal of making our environment clean.
Greater Lagos.
Did you know that the Lagos State government has partnered with the Creative Youth Community Development Initiative to create trees from art projects? The art project is geared to championing climate education in planting of 100,000 trees in secondary and technical schools. A total of 250 hybrid and traditional trees comprising of avocado tree, tangerine tree, orange and mango tree were planted by several school students within the state. With climate concern being in the forefront of the agenda across nations around the world, it is imperative to preserve and sustain this earth we call home. What better way to do this than to imbibe environmental friendly awareness campaign in young people? Young minds are being taught to become friends of the environment. Are you a friend of the environment? Think about it as we wrap up today's episode on Eco Daily. See you next time.
Greater Lagos.
So tell us about the online city monitor that was launched recently to track and monitor environmental violators.
Okay, now we have outlined what we are doing for the environment. We need to be monitored. We need to monitor ourselves. We also need the public to monitor us. We set up an online monitor which was launched last year. And when we launched it last year, I say, okay, if you can link up on the app, I say, okay, if you have complaints about a particular area where refuse is not being collected regularly and so on, people can link up and say and point it out. You can see it online immediately. Okay. And so that's how we are able to track even the performances of the PSP operators, those who collect refuse from residents, even from industries, from other places and so on. Even so, if you say in Agegeo or in Ajegunle, they are not collecting our refuse regularly, they are not doing that. So we can easily monitor along that, because those who are online, they can easily lodge their complaint easily.
Let's talk about climate change now in Lagos. What are the foreseen impacts and what are the plans to avert it?
Well, we started in Nigeria, in this country today, if you say the number one state that has done so much on climate change is Lagos. In fact, we are one of the 40 countries, the C40 countries on climate change that was set up. I was led by President Clinton at that time, under Governor Fashola. And so Lagos and city of Joburg were the only two cities under that C40 that were listed, that we met to form the C40 and so on, for the climate change, to respond to the climate change, the dynamics of climate change and so on. Mm-hmm. So since that time, we've been managing, and we also do this climate change conference every year, which Governor Fashola started in 2008. We held the 9th edition just a few months ago. And now, what have been the results? If you ask us, what have we done? What are the hallmarks, or what are the achievements? What have we recorded? Now, because when we talk about climate change is in response, we are talking about climate change that has to do with, because the weather has changed, the rain pattern has changed, even the sun, when you expect sun, is hotter now than before, and you can't even predict the period it will rain, the period that will change, and as a result, it has a lot of impact on on us as human beings, on our environment, on the wetland, on the agriculture, on the agricultural lands, and so on. So, as a result, what are the remedies which you combat this if you have too much heat and so on? One of the resultant factors is that you have mitigation and adaptation method. This mitigation and adaptation method requires that you protect your environment. How do you protect it? Through planting of trees, creating gardens here and there, and so on and so forth, and doing things that was likely to prevent the effect of climate change. And one of the recommendations that we did was to set up LASPAC, Lagos State Parks and Garden Agency, which came out of that the climate change conference we've been doing. Now, LASPAC is an agency of government now. It evolved. It was recommended in 2009 that you have to set up that agency for you to protect your environment. And we did. By 2010, 2011, that agency was set up. Today, look at how many trees have been planted in Lagos, look at how many gardens that we have around, and so on. It's just to protect our environment. That's the response. And Governor Sanwo-Olu has continued in that regard to pursue that policy, and so on with vigor.
Can you throw more light on the greenhouse gas reduction? What are the integrated plans for action?
Yeah, I think this is one of the reasons. LASEPA, Lagos Environmental Protection Agency. This is one of the responsibilities of LASEPA. How do you prevent? Recently, if you, I'm sure you must have you must have watched on television when the GM of LASEPA went to the gathering to question about pollution, people dying of pollution in Lagos, and so those are the part of the effect of the greenhouse gases that we're talking about, and people have to. So, LASEPA is an agency set up to address that issue. First of all, they have air monitoring sites, about 6 all over Lagos, in Lagos Island, in Upland Lagos, in Lekki, and several, which LASEPA set up. You go to office, they have a laboratory in which they monitor all this and what are the responses we are going to give, and so on. And that's one of the reasons why they said pollution control. How do we prevent pollution from industries, from residents, from ordinary persons selling on the streets? By when you want to sell akara, you want to sell some of the plantain and all those things which you fly. You know the effect the effect that you create through using charcoal, using firewood to cook, to sell to people, and so on. Those are the kind of things that create pollution. And you have in industries people producing and so on, either the generators or even what some of the machines are using, and some of them are outdated and so on. The effect of pollution, smokes everywhere, and so on. They have impact on people. And one of the remedies which LASEPA is supposed to be produced is to encourage the general public to start moving from firewood to other things like use of gas and several other things and so on, which about a week ago it went to the community and is going to different communities to address them, to say, okay, to teach them these are the new ways by which we go. Those are the ways by which you can get people to combat the effect of greenhouse gases and so on. We have to meet the people, teach them, and let them know, educate them, inform them, and these are the better ways by which you can begin to fight. Because it begins from your doorstep. Don't just wait to think it's a government affair. It's not a government affair. It affects everybody. Even from your house, you can begin to fight the effect of greenhouse gases, even from your house.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tunji Bello, for your time.
Thank you very much. It's nice having you.
Greater Lagos.
That's it for today's episode on Greater Lagos. Clean and green is indeed the dream. Today, we've seen the government's blueprint for a healthy environment. We've spoken to the Honorable Commissioner of Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tunji Bello. We have also spoken to the citizens on the streets about their contributions towards a cleaner and greener Lagos. All hands must be on deck to uphold this part of government's agenda, which places urgent emphasis on improving citizens' health and creating a sustainable environment. My name is Lucy Lugbe. Remember, a greater Lagos is a greater you. See you next week.
Lagos. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó àjùmọ̀ṣe ni.